In 2014, a member of the famed hacker group Anonymous sent out a series of tweets threatening one of the biggest record labels in the music industry, Atlantic Records. You have 24 hours to present a statement announcing the immediate release of Lupe Fiasco's album. If you do not comply, we will launch a direct attack against your website, your associates, and your executives. Once again, you have 24 hours starting now. Hashtag Operation Atlantic. What followed would make history. Lupe Fiasco was well known and respected within the hip-hop community and outside of it, not just for his elite lyricism and great music, but willingness to spread a positive message and speak out against injustices such as poverty, racism, police brutality, and America's foreign affairs and different wars, even if it may harm his career. This wasn't the first time he had issues with his record label and trying to obtain a release date for his album though. Back in 2010, he was gearing up to release his album Lasers, which he announced was finished, but Atlantic Records was not interested in releasing it anytime soon. Fans put together an online petition demanding Atlantic Records release Lasers, which got 5,000 signatures the first day and spread through blog sites. On October 7th, 2010, Lupe Fiasco posted a picture of himself with Atlantic president Julie Greenwald, and the next day they revealed the release date for Lasers would be March 8th, 2011. Despite the release date, fans still showed up and protested outside of the Atlantic Records office in New York City a week later, where executive Leor Cohen would come out with a large boombox playing some music for the fans. But this was just one of the many issues he had with Atlantic Records since he first signed. The only reason he even went to Atlantic was because of Jay-Z, who they both at the time believed was going to become president of Atlantic Records. But that ended up falling through because Jay-Z would instead become president of Island Def Jam Records, leaving Lupe Fiasco on Atlantic alone. For Lupe's original album, Food and Liquor, his label didn't even like it, and his business partner Chili had to refinance his own house to get the money needed to get that song on the radio themselves. When this became a breakout hit, Lupe alleged that Craig Kallman, who was the CEO at the time of Atlantic, was calling radio stations and telling them to stop playing Kick Push, a hit song by an artist on his record label. Why? Because Atlantic had nothing to benefit from it. The song was put on radio by Chili and Lupe. It had been recorded and created before their deal with Atlantic, and the producer behind it was Soundtrack, who's a part of Lupe's team. In an IG Live with Joe Budden, Lupe Fiasco tells the story of what Craig Kallman did next.
Oh, okay, well that exists in the corporate world too though.
From an equity position. He didn't have any publishing, he didn't have any royalty rights, he didn't bring the producer, he didn't have anything to write it, he had nothing to do with it. You know what they did?
What?
They flew down to the Philippines to find the woman who we sampled the record from and bought the entire record from her. So they actually own the song that Kick Push is sampled from. That's what they did.
Anonymous origins are difficult to track. Some say they started on the 4chan message boards and began organizing in 2003, with their first high-profile acts happening in 2008. Originally, it was just fun pranks, but would eventually build and take on more political and social causes over time, and they became known as activists or hacktivists, using their hacking abilities to perpetuate their values. Being that they were anonymous, there's really no specific person or group. It became more of an idea and a collective that was adopted by people who participated in their attacks and who believed in what they believed in, which were loosely the following: opposing censorship and government control of the internet, advocates of free speech and making sure that information is free, opposing corruption and abuse of power by governments and corporations, and supporting social and political causes that involve civil and human rights. Lupe Fiasco's situation likely fell under the umbrella of the third point, where they probably believed that Atlantic Records was abusing their power by not letting an artist release his work, and whenever they rallied behind a cause, they were ready to lay down the law. One of the attacks that propelled them to fame was their 2011 cyber attack on the US Department of Justice website. The government had just shut down the file-sharing website Mega Upload. The attack, which was named Operation Payback, was carried out using a distributed denial of service, more commonly known as a DDoS attack, in which a large number of computers flood a website with traffic in order to overload its servers and make the site inaccessible to users. The attack was a response to the Department of Justice's decision to shut down Mega Upload and arrest its founder, Kim.com, on charges of copyright infringement. Kim.com's claim was that he wasn't guilty of copyright infringement. What he created was a file sharing service to allow people to upload and transfer files. And just because people decided to use his service to transfer and upload copyrighted material, that doesn't mean he approved of it or condoned it, nor should he be convicted of that crime. Anonymous saw the move as an attack on internet freedom and an infringement on the rights of Mega Upload users, many of whom were using the site to store and share legal files. Anonymous announced their intention to launch the attack in a series of tweets and posts on social media, and called on its followers to join the attack by downloading a DDoS tool called helloyassine, which would be used to target the DOJ website. The attack was successful, and the DOJ website was temporarily brought down. In addition to the attack on the DOJ website, Anonymous also targeted the websites of the Motion Picture Association of America and the RIAA, which is the Recording Industry Association of America, in protest of their role in the crackdown of internet piracy. They also launched an attack in late 2014, close to the same time they threatened Atlantic Records, on Sony Pictures, in retaliation for the company's effort to block the release of the film The Interview, which was a comedy about an assassination plot against the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The hack of Sony was a major security breach, and massive amounts of sensitive data such as confidential financial documents, social security numbers, email archives, and personal information about celebrities and employees were stolen. The hackers also released several embarrassing emails sent by Sony executives. The attack was first announced by a Twitter account claiming to represent Anonymous, which stated that the group had launched the attack in response to Sony's effort to block the release of The Interview and to protest the company's treatment of its employees. The hack was later claimed by a group calling itself the Guardians of Peace, but many experts believe that they're affiliated with, or at least sympathetic to, the Anonymous group. In the aftermath of the hack, the US government officially attributed the Sony hack to North Korea, although some experts and Anonymous themselves have questioned this, saying it wasn't clear where the hackers were based or who was behind the attack. It seemed more like a political move by the US government to paint North Korea in a certain light. But these are just examples of why it made perfect sense that Atlantic Records complied with the request, or threat, made by Anonymous to announce a release date to Lupe Fiasco's album Tetsuo and Youth, because the next day they sent out a tweet saying, "Lupe Fiasco's Tetsuo and Youth, January 20th, 2015. Mission accomplished." Lupe Fiasco offered his thanks by sending a tweet with just the letter V, symbolizing the character from the movie V for Vendetta that has the same mask that Anonymous represents. They also took credit for it with a statement the next day saying, 24 hours ago we released a short Twitter ultimatum. We called upon record label Atlantic Records, responsible for releasing conscious rap artist Lupe Fiasco's long-awaited album. We demanded a statement from the label within 24 hours to release a date, or we would unleash the complete and utter fury of our collective on their company and executives. 21 hours later, they released a short tweet citing the album and its release date. At this time, it can be concluded that we have proved our point. We wish music that is educating the masses to keep being released. We will fight for that. Lupe Fiasco, Talib Kweli, Mos Def, Common, and others are the moving force behind conscious rap. This is music we will fight for. Atlantic Records did keep their promise because Lupe Fiasco's album was released on that date to great critical acclaim, one of his greatest albums, and arguably the greatest hip-hop album of that year, despite it getting almost no promotion or support from the record label. It's a mystery why they decided to pick Lupe Fiasco as an artist to rally behind, but it just goes to show that despite the fact that a rapper or artist isn't consistently putting out hit songs that are reaching the masses, if their artwork has meaning, the ability to touch people, and serves a purpose greater than themselves, it's more than enough to get outside parties willing to bat for you, whether that is creating online petitions to get your music released, showing up and organizing in person to protest your music not being released, and even threatening your record label with consequences that could range from having their information leaked publicly, or perhaps things even worse than that, they may be involved in behind the scenes.